Hi, welcome to yet another episode of the Generative Product Show. In today's episode, we are talking about a movement which is shaping up in the northeastern part of US, which is Connecticut. Yes, Connecticut is going to be the next big thing as per BJ Keto, who is the Chief Strategy Officer of the Rebellion Group. At least they're trying to put Connecticut in the center of technology, innovation, and leadership by getting together policymakers, industrialists, technocrats, startup leaders, students from different parts of the country to be under one roof to really talk technology, really talk about leadership, the vision, the AI roadmap, and a lot of interesting ideas. And you get a lot of input if you really go and register for this event at citiesfuture.com. It's not a paid podcast, by the way, but it's just, I'm doing something for Connecticut, which I have a special weakness for. So because I graduated from UCONN School of Business, and definitely makes sense to talk with BJ Keto, the Chief Strategy Officer of Rebellion Group, who has been in the forefront to really unite so many leaders. And again, I'm talking with Brian, who is the business matchmaker as well, a lot of media channels. And we are really doing fireside chats with a lot of leaders and really shaping up cities' future. The name is shapingcitiesfuture.com by Rebellion Group. Let's get going. Encourage this conference. Go and register if you're in UConn alum, if you're in New York, if you're in nearby states, Boston, Massachusetts, anywhere. It's just a short ride, and they are doing a lot of free stuff out there to really conglomerate this tech revolution, shaping cities' future. Yes, let's get going. Shaping cities' future in the Generative Product. So,
tell us a little bit more about your background, Rebellion Group as a company, your background, and how does it help the tech community in general?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Rebellion Group is ultimately, when you strip it all down, a full service marketing and advertising agency. Obviously, technology is a big part of that.
How long has been the company been, and what triggered this transformation towards tech?
When I joined in 2021, we started to look at the evolution of the industry and where things were going. And when we rebranded to the Rebellion Group, it was very purposeful in maintaining our sort of core ability to help, small, medium-sized businesses all the way to enterprise businesses.
How do audience get a benefit out of this diverse set of leaders? Like, do you have any specific theme?
For this event, so we have themes for the events. So, we've had a manufacturing event, a travel and tourism event. Our last event was on entrepreneurship and leadership. For this event, what we wanted to do was try to quantify realistic impact that we could have over the next 10 years, right?
Rebellion Group, they can land up internships, they can land up anything, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are internship, externship, apprenticeship, opportunities for young, interested, hungry folks, and trying to learn and understand what's challenging people and want to be involved in that conversation.
I love marketing, not just company. Personal branding is important, right? I mean, it's not just floating around resumes one-on-one. So you are brave enough to speak somewhere?
Absolutely. On the other side of it, you hear what leaders in, these panelists are all decision makers, business owners, executives, policy makers, innovators. So just to hear what they're talking about, what their pain points are, that gives you an angle if you're applying there, or if you want to get into the world, that marketplace, if you heard them firsthand, what their pain points are or what they're looking to solve.
Hi, BJ. Welcome to Generative Product. So we have been talking from last couple of weeks to have this. I'm really excited for your conference, November 19th. Let's start with the conference and your background, like why you are doing it, and what is the evolution of getting to this exciting conference where you're calling like 1,000 odd people and you have so many, like 70 odd speakers. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background, Rebellion Group as a company, your background, and how does it help the tech community in general?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Rebellion Group is ultimately, when you strip it all down, a full service marketing and advertising agency. Obviously, technology is a big part of that. And we're, in Cheshire, Connecticut, and we feel strongly about supporting the growth of the economy in the region. And when we went about trying to put together conversations and ultimately sort of just facilitate networking and be a resource, putting our clients together, putting our network together, it kind of clicked that an event series that really showcased the key topics that are impacting economic growth in Connecticut, and an opportunity to bring people together. There's a lot of great organizations. There's a lot of folks that are pushing and driving innovation in their own ways, and it felt very fragmented. So this was really intended to be a platform to bring those folks together and amplify those conversations and hopefully spark some action. So it started in our office and has, like you said, evolved to other locations and upwards of 1,200 people that attend.
Okay, awesome. So you started back in 20, it's been, how long has been the company been, and what triggered this transformation towards tech? I see it's a marketing company, but a lot of focus is on tech, that way, chatting, and even the data part of it, analytics, tech, where organization, or I would say educational organization like UCONN are there, who have a great analytics program. You have been associated with them. I believe I was seeing your podcast from a longer time. Like, how does it help? How does that AI initiative of this educational institutes get help from this kind of event? Maybe the students will get an interest to come there.
Absolutely. Our evolution, Rebellion Group's 11 years old. It was founded by Bryn Tyndall, and it was as Rebel Interactive Group. And, when I joined in 2021, we started to look at the evolution of the industry and where things were going. And that was even before, AI was hitting us in the face every day, but the world was still shifting. And, we realized that the focus on strategic thinking, on data, on insights, on the ability to really focus on performance and attribution and analytics was a key need in this evolution of the industry. And when we rebranded to the Rebellion Group, it was very purposeful in maintaining our sort of core ability to help small, medium-sized businesses all the way to enterprise businesses. But the portfolio group within that, and Virtuoso, 535, and Rebel, was specifically to address some of these emerging needs in the marketplace, and that allowed us to then get into our own AI tools, allowed us to focus on data science and analytics, and build that and infuse that into our strategy practice. Just seeing where it has ultimately evolved to, right? So much of the work is getting commoditized, or I'd say marginalized, with the ability of technology to execute quickly. So the emphasis becomes on those minds and those people that can best utilize the technology to execute. And that's really what we've been training internally and what we've been partnering with folks for. So for the event, like-minded individuals, those that are embracing technology, those that are looking at how they can make their own internal operations and systems more efficient, how they can leverage data analytics or technology to grow their business. That is all sort of forefront of conversation at these events, irrespective of the topic.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds great for opportunity for students in particular, it seems. So you're saying students and people who are learning AI, who want to know more about marketing, or who just want to connect with the leaders' point of views of like how this space is evolving between marketing and data strategy, tech strategy. But I see like you have also invited folks like widespread of speakers are there, right, from the governor or like some state leaders of Connecticut to technology leaders plus educational leaders. Like how do audience get a benefit out of this diverse set of leaders? Like do you have any specific theme for the
Yes. I
such?
mean, for this event, so often we have themes for the events. So, we've had a manufacturing event, a travel and tourism event. Our last event was on entrepreneurship and leadership, and we had a startup competition that was sort of infused through that, and partnered with CCEI for the startup cohort. For this event, what we wanted to do was try to quantify realistic impact that we could have over the next 10 years, right? Rather than just talk about what could be in the future and innovation and, all of these very abstract potential what ifs. We wanted to focus on key areas that had momentum that could really drive, some change. So that's where, we have kind of multiple conversations, right, that are from bioscience and lab accessibility and as well then going into the infusion of AI in education to the streamlining the healthcare system. We've kind of taken a broad look at all these topics, and that's where you see so many different panels. We have Ed Zukowski coming to talk, and he's on the forefront of AI and blockchain and intellectual property protection rights. And then to your point, we have state senators and we have educators and we have other business owners that are coming because ultimately this collaboration is key, right? And especially if I'm a student and I'm looking at these initiatives and understanding, what resources are available, what new programs are in their infancy, right? It helps me understand what my potential employer may be looking for, and or just make the connections there in person.
Right. Let me stop you there. I wanted to focus my next discussion on that. You brought a key point. Like, how are students, like you did some transformation programs for UCONN and Cornell or something. I was reading and researching about your company. And how do you bridge that gap between educators, policymakers, and founders? And what opportunities do you see bridging that higher education, like say UConn, Cornell, etc., with business? Like, because agentic AI, there are AI revolution which is shaping up, but the courses might be older. Or do you give some practical insights or capstones? You help, say somebody is coming to your conference, a business owner. Do you tie up those owners with the capstones of these programs, or what is the practical help or connections you do for as a platform?
Yeah, the hope right up until this point is that those topics and conversations are surfaced throughout the discussion, and then people can connect, after the talk in networking opportunities and things like that. We created Key Connections, which is sort of the AI matchmaker that folks would be getting an email from and updates that actually recommends connections. So, kind of gives them a short list of folks that they should seek to meet or connect with at the event, and that's filtered and directed based off of what people are there to learn about, to talk about, to network, to look for opportunities, to find resources, to find capital, whatever it may be. They can select
Yeah.
those different outcomes that they're hoping for from the event, and then we would make recommendations, for them. Part of what we've seen in prior events is so much of the opportunities are not necessarily known, but are there. And whether it's funding or whether it's programs or it's follow-on capital or it's mentorship, a lot of times there are organizations that are offering that. Maybe it's lesser known, or maybe they need to compile a couple different resources together to really get the added horsepower that they want with their startup or something like that. And that's the second part of what we're hoping to accomplish, that putting these folks together now might spark a platform where instead of 10 different organizations that are all doing great things, but are fragmenting the support that a student may need that would keep them in Connecticut and keep their business here, maybe that changes the dynamic. Or, maybe we can actually come up with a climate where regulations are not prohibitive to innovation, right? Or keeping folks here for early stage trials.
Yeah, you mean to say like key topics you can bring in where we can apply and we can have this ecosystem collaborate, and you give them a kind of ground to, it's kind of an open forum. There's no hard and fast tie-ups you have, but it's kind of an open forum you give them so they connect and develop their area of interest. Maybe climate tech company, or depends on the company who is coming and the programs they have. So coming to that, the CCEI is one of the key organization in UCONN for entrepreneurship. I was seeing some podcast with them, like how I'm not telling about CCI, but in particular, but I don't want to focus on them, but any entrepreneurship cell, every college, every organization, say Berkeley in California, just Deck, they like fund a ton of companies. It's very active here in, say, in California and Silicon Valley rather than in Connecticut, where I think there is a difference of, I don't want to give a number, but there's a huge difference, right? So how do you develop that ecosystem? Because that's key for people like, say, if you see Stanford, like, or say Berkeley, right? Obviously, I don't go to the ranking of the colleges, but they are equally good colleges. UConn is one of the top college, and Cornell is saying the East Coast is one of the top colleges. But the innovation and the entrepreneurship is lacking a bit. I see in the East Coast colleges like them. But how do you bridge that gap by, say, involving with those entrepreneurship cell? Because you are a business and you are involved with a lot of startups. I think you, as a company, can be a real driver if we really channelize this. Do you see something coming up after this conference?
Yeah, I think it's something that we've talked about at the conferences, or even just when we think about how the state's perceived, and whether it's perception or reality. What's the cliche? Yeah. Perception is reality, but the great part about Connecticut is that there are so many resources, that there are so many schools, right, that are in our ecosystem, that we have that proximity to New York and Boston. Like, there are those things that often we're apologetic for, but those can be resources. The challenge is that because of how we're structured, they're so fragmented, right? So the CCEI is a great program, and we have a great relationship with them. But even with them, the dollars that are available within their ecosystem are relatively nominal compared to what it would really take to launch. And even if you win the major award, $150,000 is a lot of money, but it's not startup to unicorn money, right? And the state has a ton of grants and matching programs and things like that. But in order for us to really change that perception, for investors to take notice, for VCs and PEs to really focus here, we have to really bring that pool together. So there's there are all these organizations. CI is a huge, incubator and a great accelerator. And by having them in the same room, right, and having these conversations around how to best support startup businesses and early stage companies, I think my hope, right, is that somehow we figure out a way to sort of join the resources to tell a better story, right? To make it more enticing, to make it easier for folks to get funding rather than applying in 10 different places, right? To go through sort of a central hub.
Yeah, I mean, why I brought that topic, it becomes easier, right? Somebody is in the college, so that is their first experience. They have not seen the world. But when they come to, say, Berkeley or Stanford, they don't have to explore outside. There are too many opportunities, like in the campus itself. Like they proactively promote, and they
it's just you could fall into the next potential funding opportunity, in that region, right? Where we have great capital. I mean, Fairfield County and southwestern Connecticut has, a ton of resources connected to the New York City, connected to the West Coast when it comes to, later stage investments and getting them to see Connecticut or Connecticut businesses as an early stage playing ground is the next shift, right? That there is proven models that can come out of it.
No, that's a great area we are doing, because it's all about businesses. So we will do something more on that when I'm there. We will talk more with your people coming there, and the owners who are coming. Are they interested to invest, or they partner with student bodies and student-led entrepreneurs? So then that will start. Somebody has to start, and I'm glad that you're leading that in Connecticut, and you're shaping city's future. The name
we're trying.
The name itself tells a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's somebody has to try, and people have to all come together. You have given a common ground. After that, it's all one man cannot do everything. Right? You have got a lot of folks together. I think it would be great to focus on that area. And let's go to other points, like we were talking about the intersection of AI, creativity, and education. And what do you think are from your point of view, are the top 2-3 trends in AI marketing that you want to focus on in Connecticut or in that region, especially in your purview? Say AI marketing plus education. If you say there are product leaders, there are educators. Say that you're doing a conference. Somebody might do a conference on bringing agentic AI revolution or something around the new trends of AI and a particular domain, vertical. Might be marketing, customer support, or anything. Like, depends. Law. There are a lot of vertical domains which are really catching up. What is your point of view? In Connecticut is definitely an insurance capital. Like Hartford is the insurance capital of the world, right? Do you see like those vertical domains we can? It's taking advantage of leveraging that domain expertise of finance or say insurance industry. Can we do something?
Yeah, I think there definitely are, and I won't claim to be an expert in any of those fields necessarily, but there are certainly prime areas for innovation when it comes to insurance, when it comes to fintech in general, when it comes to insurtech, when it comes to healthcare, and whether that's streamlining an innovative treatment or device for coding, or whether that's just the overall healthcare system and records unification and sort of increasing our ability to provide great healthcare. I think there's a lot of areas that probably haven't necessarily been identified as even feasible yet, because these models are evolving, right? And there's still questions about what they can do, can't do, and privacy and everything else. But I do think that those areas are ripe for pilots and ripe for testing, right? But even prior to really locking down regulations or anything like that, just proving out the model in those areas. For us, something that we feel strongly about is the embrace of technology and AI to help accelerate our wayfinding, our research, our ability to understand customers at a greater scale, to analyze conversation and reviews, and applying a mixture of our own proprietary psycholinguistic analyses with now AI's ability to consume a mass amount of data certainly gives us an acceleration point, and that's where data science comes into play. But what you see and what you read about is, and it's especially true for students, that AI also runs the risk of kind of reducing critical thinking skills, right? And I forget what who published it. It was reputable, right? But it was that we're losing our critical thinking and we're turning into zombies, and we're actually, our processing is taking a step back as we rely more on AI.
Plus, there is hallucination. Just want to stop with that. Like the data, we think it's correct, but it's based on some articles published recently. Suppose I make this podcast viral, then the data will come from here. It's true or not, except peer-reviewed journal. So it's taking media articles and it's hallucinating, giving wrong information. Definitely, yeah. Please go ahead. Yeah.
No. I think that's the other piece too, right? Is and that maybe that's a whole different tangent. We can go on to a different day, but understanding confidence scores and what is providing the site, those source citations and things like that. But for us, especially in our world, what we believe as the entire sort of system shifts to, let AI write my blogs, let AI build my website, let AI, orchestrate my paid media campaigns and my advertising, let AI, right? Like, as the world's thinking like that in our industry, that's where we're saying, yes, AI, but also humanity, right? Like, we have to push that human fingerprint into everything, because that's ultimately where, what we do is creative and it's emotional and it's storytelling, and it needs that human element. So that's something that, we're trying to balance in our world when it comes to AI. You mentioned sort of, oh no, go ahead.
No, that's what you're absolutely correct. Even we were talking yesterday, right? Like, it's not like AI is, there are some bad points, but it's not, there is a point of view on, what is that? Unemployment due to AI, right? Replaced. Okay, there will be revolution, technology modernization will be there, or else you would be in like Stone Age till now, right? So evolution, and we have to evolve with it. Is my point of view. Like, say, people are more empowered, they have to learn. It's very easy to learn also. So the good part, positive part, is easier to learn. And so you can learn quickly. You can just go up your level and you can do more as a company, say Rebellion Group as a company. You can do more in that similar workforce. We need not see it depends on the company's point of view. Say, some people laid off thousands of people, right, due to AI. I understand, because if they don't have a forward vision, or they can't understand what to do with those employees, they will do that cut. But if they are of forward vision, saying, okay, well, we have the plan, this one person can do twice the work right now, instead of employing more or going for recruitment, you can just empower those people and increase your TAM or your market sizing or your capital. So your valuation of the company as a whole increases. So definitely, as you said, there are negatives, there are positives. We have to embrace that. And you're doing a great work on that front, really, in Connecticut, which is a little bit, I would say, just being honest, right? It's a bit little bit lagging compared to the like Silicon Valley, Seattle, or in the west of the Western region, right? Obviously due to the tech culture there. But let's
Yeah, I think like
yeah,
the what I would just react to that is that the West Coast is undeniable, right? Silicon Valley, Mountain View, like there's the innovation and where technology comes from. I would love for Connecticut to be on the map for that in the future, or the East Coast. But the
yeah,
reality is that right now that is the incubator for it, and I
yeah,
think that's okay, right? It's driving jobs, but those are
mm,
program or engineer or architect jobs, right? That are building the technology. Where Connecticut has the ability to differentiate and really take a hold of a position is on the utilization, right? And use,
correct.
becoming experts with the
Yeah,
application of these technologies.
right.
And that could put it on the map in an equal way, but just in a different way.
Correct, correct. So that's where we were also talking, like we can bridge between Stanford and like New York, right, which is a little bit closer to marketing tech, a little bit more technical, right? Obviously, it's the capital, I mean, the finance capital of the world. So there is no denying of that finance or money or shortage of capital there, but it's like bridging that geography, right? I mean, it's very, as you said, Connecticut is between Boston and New York. It's a very strategic location. Just 2 hours, like in Bay Area, if I travel 2 hours, it's like whole of Silicon Valley. So you can just tell New York is Connecticut. I mean, Hartford, right? I mean,
Yep.
it's if I travel, literally, it takes 2 hours from one part of Silicon Valley to the other. So if we really bridge that gap and have that connect, I think you are doing a great work by taking it to Stanford, New York, and so that vision is what is important, and you're doing a tremendous work. Really congratulating on that vision itself. I mean, obviously there is a lot of work to be done, but yeah,
We'll
let's
appreciate
go.
that.
Yeah. So what last question before I mean, it's 35 minutes. Yeah, we have some more time. So last question before we go more on the personal of Rebellion Group. Like what is the vision of Rebellion Group? How that shifted, say when you started as a company before maybe 12 years, 15 years ago? How was it? And today, with the advent of AI and technology, do you have a different vision? Do you have a vision to go towards education and AI technologies? And how are you working towards that vision?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. Something that we probably noodle over every day in some way, right? Just trying to keep
Yeah,
up with how the market shifts.
correct.
I'd say historically, what we had talked a little bit about was our industry has gone through shifts, right? Very early, in 1900s, it was just product oriented sales, right? You had door-to-door salesmen. That's how marketing was done. And then it got
Yeah,
to this point where brand became important because we had the advent of TV and sort of radio that reached broader folks, and then
yeah,
the internet, right, came about, and everything became digital, and it was SEO, and it was
yeah.
the evolution of social, and then we needed a social agency, and then we wanted sweepstakes, and then it went back offline and some type of experiential, and then it went interactive, so some mixture of both. And
Mhm.
but I think what we've seen is sort of this continued evolution, and part of what we saw and the shift from Rebel Interactive to Rebellion Group was because interactive was
Yeah,
limited, right? And
yeah,
the new sort of mindset, what we see is more of a networked sort of partner, right? A much more capable, much more diverse, because of the ability of us to utilize technology for a broader execution
Mhm.
base, right? So the
Mhm.
idea that we become more of a thought partner, right? More of a strategic partner, and again, be able to put our human sort of expertise, experience, the human gut check to things,
Right.
really becomes, how we can start to kind of differentiate,
Hmm.
while also being able to support them, right, across the board with a different model.
Correct, correct. Yeah, that's very important. That switch towards technology that we're doing, because marketing has been there, branding has been there from ages, but that's tech shift is very important for the company even to go up. And Rebellion Group as a company who is shaping Connecticut future is a brand, or so like okay, let me come to that topic. Yeah, I was just telling, like, you have invited folks from Connecticut, or is it some people are from Boston, and you're shaping city's future is the topic, but is it like city, or can be from like surrounding areas? Say I'm
I
going
think
from there, suppose.
I think we have plans of, well, one, we didn't really anticipate that it was going to be as well received as it was. So early on, we figured, okay, Connecticut, we'll shape Connecticut's future. We'll help, we're not shaping it, but the people that attend are, and we'll just give them a platform.
Correct, yeah.
And then, we started to see the traction, and sort of looked out, and it could be, we're shaping New York's future, shaping Massachusetts' future, right? Does it grow like that, or does it become something that is more of a destination, right? So rather than branding out to every
Right.
area, can this,
Yeah.
I feel just off my rocker saying it out loud, right? Because it seems so outlandish, but like, can this be a seed that turns into an annual event series that,
Yeah.
mirrors kind of what South by did in Austin, but is now, in the Northeast, and we get multiple cities to participate. And because we're so close together here, have some public transportation, you can have these different city hubs that have, more subject expertise in that area. And now we have a destination, and right, we kind of build up
Mm.
the travel, the tourism, the eyeballs on Connecticut, as a hub now, because we're bringing people in.
Yeah.
So it started as just a little idea, like, let's get people together. Where it could go, sometimes we dream, sometimes we ground ourselves. So I guess.
No, I mean, that's a great model. Like, I believe it can be a good model for, say, Boston. Like Boston has so many events, right? Massachusetts has so many events. New York has so many events. I understand it's Connecticut, but definitely it's a model. If you're bringing in, right, you're trying to shape a big model. It's like it will improve over time, like with more. So just like a technical model, this will improve with more conference, more participation, right? That's why we're doing this, right? So I would really encourage everyone. I mean, everyone from Connecticut. I'm from UCONN. I have like thousands of alumni connected. Really encourage everyone. At least, do you have a hybrid, BJ, by any chance, or do you have a streaming? You said in Fox News there is streaming, or?
Yeah, we're finalizing what that's going to look like. In past events, we've done a live stream on the Fox 61 app, and then all the content is available on demand after. It's probably going to be something similar this time around, but we're still working on the specifics for, start time, end time, things like that.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, if we have a link, we can give it, but there is no replacement of attending in like in person, obviously. I mean, because so many people, it will be difficult in online to listen to them, maybe due to the logistics. But
I think, yeah. I mean, I would just like, as we're talking, I think something that hopefully is on people's mind, but certainly is a lens that I think through when I see people talking or hear what they're talking about.
Yeah.
And we've talked a little bit about this tangentially when it comes to, as a student, as a young entrepreneur, what does it mean for me? How does it help me navigate, my next step, my career?
Yeah.
Part of what hopefully these events illuminate, right, is where there are gaps that need to be filled, and that those are all ripe for new startups or new folks or new roles. So I think so often, we worry about AI taking our job or whatever it may be. But, if you think about all these innovations, there was no Airbnb host in
Yeah.
2009, right? There was no Amazon reseller in 1999. There was
Yeah.
no, uh,
Absolutely.
blockchain developer, right? In
Yeah.
2008, right? So like all of these crypto traders, right? Like all of
Yeah.
these things, they just shift
Yeah.
where the next opportunity is or what the next job
Yeah.
description is, so to speak, right? So I think that's something
Yeah.
to look out for at these events is that,
Definitely. Yeah.
what the
The new,
opportunity.
the new trends, like, it's not always the same, right? Tomorrow, agentic AI can bring in new shape to the domain-oriented automations, right? You might have a
Mhm.
specialized insurance agent which will do better than, say, just a normal chat GPT, or a specialized insurance agent AI company, right?
Mhm.
There is huge potential, I would say, in Connecticut, with respect to insurance, finance, healthcare, right? I mean, because
Yeah.
of the conglomeration of organizations there, right? So, yeah, it's all about data, but the domain is important, which is already there. And people can definitely should go and leverage the leadership, right? You have leadership, like 60 to 70 leaders in one conference is a really big number. I mean, cannot reach one-on-one, they will not respond, right? Obviously, you can build that connect. If you have something in you, you can build that connect and that alliance, right? And first,
Mhm.
they can land up internships, they can land up anything, right? If everybody is looking to hire bright people, it's not
Oh
just
yeah,
young people.
absolutely. And there are internship, externship, apprenticeship, opportunities for young, interested, hungry folks. And I do think that that's
Yeah.
whether right or wrong, right? There was a stigma on my generation for certain things, but current generation, they have their own, right? So I think that folks seeing young attendees that are eager and trying
Yeah.
to learn and understand what's challenging people and
Mm.
want to be involved in that conversation. I think that says a lot about a young professional.
Right, right, yeah. And nowadays, you can go and say, I do podcast. You can get that visibility also, right? I mean, if you're speaking on some topics and it's broadcasted, it's all about marketing yourself, right? It's a world
Yeah.
of marketing, not just company. Personal branding is important, right? I mean, it's not just floating around resumes one-on-one. So you are brave enough to speak somewhere, and people will always invite you.
Yeah, oh
No?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But I mean, and then on the other side of it, you hear what leaders in, these panelists are all decision makers, business owners, executives, policy makers, innovators. So just to hear what they're talking about, what their pain points are, that gives you an angle, if you're applying there or if you want to get into, that world, that marketplace, then you have a leg up, right? If you heard them firsthand, what their pain points are or what they're looking to solve.
Right. Okay. So we talked a lot about the conference. So we'll just wrap it up with some personal things. Like, you have been involved in, we talked a lot before also. So you have been involved in rebellion group. What is your personal aspiration? Like, what do you want to do in future as BJ, or as Chief Strategic Officer or President of rebellion group? Plus, as an individual for the community, what is the next 10 year, it's a long time, but at least a 5 year, what is a vision looking like in your own personal life? What do you want to do as a person for the ecosystem?
I mean, ultimately, I think, I want to make an impact. I want to make a positive impact on the communities I'm part of, on the state. I'd love in some way to be influential in how we think about, media or technology, or how we think about engaging with customers.
Hmm.
You know, I was, I guess still am, but I was a practicing attorney that, sort of moved into digital marketing space and have a business background and did some consulting on my own. And, coming to Rebellion Group, it was really focusing on the strategic product and building out, a consultancy that was lightweight but capable, right? And not, sort of drowning in long decks and, that couldn't execute and couldn't really make changes. So I think what I want to do, I love to solve the problem. I love to sort of prove out the logic. I think a lot of what we do is sort of relegated back to ones and zeros and math, right? And you can kind of create these logic pathways in your mind and sort of reverse engineer success. So like on the marketing side, that's kind of fun, right? But on the bigger aspiration side, I think I found this industry compelling because I saw things like, the Fitbit supposedly come out of a marketing initiative and, start, or the Fuel Band, right? Which started then the Fitbit and the IoT sort of evolution. Or, I look back at the original orange juice ads and, it was a marketing ploy because, there was excess oranges and they didn't know what to do with them. So they were like, let's turn it into orange juice and market it, right? Like these shifts and these marketing initiatives that like changed culture and how we consume and engage. That's really like what I'm most excited about, right? So, if I can be a part of that, or I don't know.
Okay. We'll talk more.
I have big aspirations. I think they're fun to find.
Loaded question. We'll talk more when we meet up. Definitely a loaded question. I don't know. But let's go to some short, quick answers. Rapid fire kind of things. If you're up, if you want it, yeah. So I see a brand image of Nike in the background.
Yeah.
Air Jordan. Awesome. So, what is your favorite marketing campaign till date? You can give me one or two or three.
I would say the one I always go back to is Mark Echo's Still Free tagging of Air Force One. That was a stunt / hoax. So they released a viral video of him tagging Air Force One and it went viral. Pentagon had to deny it. It was very early in sort of the guerrilla marketing, and that was one of the greats that really kind of hits me.
Awesome. Any second favorite?
I think there's been so many. I like the recent ones that have been cultural movements, right? Like the Throw Like a Girl, Dove Real Beauty. Those that really made people think. There's so many, but those are the ones that jump to mind.
Awesome. Okay, let's go to a characteristic. What's the most underappreciated skill for today's product or brand or a tech leader that often gets overlooked? Like you really don't see that skill set on surface level, and maybe
I would say curiosity.
Okay.
And whether that's a value or a skill, maybe they go a little bit to both.
That's underappreciated, you're saying. That's very important for you. Curiosity to know something.
I think people are getting very good at executing a specific task as they're taught or as they learn. And I think sort of that interconnectivity and the personal curiosity as to what's underlying, what caused that, what else is at play, has drifted away.
Oh, great point of view. That's very important. Curiosity, just like I'm curious to know about an event. Anybody, right? I mean, curious to know about upcoming technology. Say we do agentic AI coaching, how curious that's tells a lot about you, right? As a person or a leader or a brand. That's absolutely spot on. And what's one rebel rule that you live by when you're building a business or driving a change in the ecosystem? What is that rebel rule that you live by every day? You said about a vision, but do you have some kind of rule that you live by every day, you yourself personally, not rebellion group?
I think that ultimately it comes to progress needs some courage and tension, right? And you have to be confident in offering ideas that are out of the norm, right? And most times the most successful pivots or things are somewhere that someone feels some kind of tension, right? There's a change, there's a shift, there's an aha moment. So I try to push for, rationale, data, evidence to back up a point of view that pushes the bounds and, lives on the edge of that controversial versus, controversy.
Awesome. And let's go to one last thing before we wrap up. It's been some time. So what would you give an advice to the 25-year-old self of yourself, like who is just starting out a career or business or agency business, whatever, marketing career or digital agency, or say you did some law work, right? So what would you have changed? Suppose you were giving advice to your son, maybe a son is not too old, but anybody, right? I mean, who is 20-year-old, or who's just starting out, fresh out of college, right? So what should be the drive? What would be the important advice to him or her?
I think it kind of goes back to ties into what I just said, but I think it's have courage, and not overconfidence and cockiness, but, ask the questions if you don't understand, raise your hand or speak up if you have something that, is in your head or something to say. And I think I was super shy. I still am, right? And I watched a lot of opportunities go by, because I was quiet, right? Or because I didn't think that I knew enough at the time or whatever it may be. And I think that's something I would,
that's important.
I would push is just throw yourself out there, because what I say, and maybe it's controversial for the pod, maybe you have to cut it out, right? But no matter who you are, you still get up groggy in the middle of the night, and when you're underwear and you take a piss and you miss the bowl kind of thing, right? Like, everyone is human, and everyone to a certain extent is kind of, feeling their way through it in real time. So, at some point I just said, doesn't matter what it is, who it is.
No, you need to have the balls to be courageous enough to ask question. I certainly get it, because there is a saying, if you don't ask, you don't get. The answer is always no if there is no question, right?
Yep.
You're not asking anything, it is no by default. If you ask, there is chance of 50-50 or 10-90 or whatever the probability is, greater than zero. You're absolutely right that you should have the courage to ask and be prepared, a little bit prepared. If you're not prepared, it's fine, but at least you try to be prepared. But if you don't ask, if you don't raise your hand, that means you are not considered. That's very important.
Yeah. I mean, it's implied, I guess I was, that like you have some standing, or you've done some thinking, right? And if your question is met with questions, there's some dialogue that could happen, right? It goes to I don't want to hear the same question 5 times, but always ask it the first time, right?
Yeah, right. So finally, we're coming to the end. So what are you excited about? This is the last thing I want to discuss right in this podcast. What is the last thing the listeners should take away from your event? And what is that one motivational factor that will pull them to drive, say, 100 miles, 200 miles, in different part of Connecticut or New York or Boston or anywhere to come to the event? What will be the takeaway?
It's a great.
Not for owners, not for the owners,
Yeah.
for participants.
I think that as a participant, it's very dialogue heavy, right? And it's very networking forward, right? It's not it's not a speed dating, right? But there are ample opportunities to have meaningful conversations with other attendees. And I think putting yourself into an environment with this level of leadership across everything from AI to healthcare to education, see and hear firsthand the topics that they're struggling with, the initiatives that they have started going out, to try and make a real impact, and to be in the know and be a part of that can be very powerful, right? It can be great context for conversation when you take it back home with you, right? Or it can give you insights and inroads to new opportunities, to business ideas and everything else. I always get most excited to see what relationships are built at these events, and then are there pilot programs or are there activations or projects that kind of spur out of that, right? Because ultimately we want to drive impact, not just keep talking. So, even this event, trying to put a number, 5 billion, it could be upwards of 50 billion, in over the next 10 years, but really trying to get everyone there to hold ourselves accountable to making an impact, making change.
Definitely, Vijay. I really appreciate all that you're doing for the tech community in general, Connecticut, New York, Massachusetts, the whole region, the Northeast. The reason you're doing a lot of things. People have to collaborate, come up, and obviously help you and themselves, right? It's not like one-way street. They have to come up, give talks, nominate themselves to talk, do podcasts, or volunteer. Really encourage everyone from UCONN or whoever is associated with me also. I'll personally vouch for this event. I'll talk with, I'm also sponsoring the UCONN School of Business. They have a product program club, CCI, you are connected. Obviously, a lot of people will come, hope for the best. And we will keep in touch, and thanks for attending.
No, I appreciate the invite. And I think, just to just one point, I know you're trying to wrap up, but the technology piece is important. And maybe I gloss over it in the narrative sometimes because much like digital, right? My perspective is that technology is the bedrock and foundation to all businesses today. That's the reality, right? And it has an application in systems, in software and infrastructure, in client communications, in applications, in everything. So, that is present in all of these talks because the evolution, the innovation in our world right now relies on core technology, innovative technology, new software, AI applications, agents. So that's definitely topics that are top of mind, even if the topics themselves don't necessarily, say it explicitly.
Awesome. Thanks, Vijay. Let's connect again. I'll set up a call to discuss more, but definitely interesting, definitely big things. You as a company, Rebellion Group, and you as, I know you are so famous now, Brian.
Yeah, I don't know about that. This will help.
Because you're doing.
No. Well, I appreciate it. November 19th. See you there.
Yeah, see you.
Bye.
Bye.